People often say we should study history to figure out what life is really all about. So that's kind of what I've been doing recently, and I have begun to notice a pattern. But since we're on the topic of history, let's go back, all the way back, to the very beginning. You see, in the beginning, in the story of Genesis, Eve bites an apple that forever changes everything that came after that. You see, once Eve bit into the apple, everything changed. The whole paradigm shifted. It was like a veil was lifted. And that's exactly what I want to give you. Because not all change is physical. A lot of change can occur psychologically. And so today I want to give you the gift of perception. Let's begin. So as I said, what I'm giving you today is not knowledge. It is not advice. It's perception. Because there is a reason why the most grounded leaders in history, from emperors like Marcus Aurelius, to monks, warriors, and even podcasters, they all discovered the same mindset. Not from textbooks, but from suffering. And when they saw it, they never looked at themselves the same way again. So before I share this with you, do this with me. Let your shoulders drop. Let your eyes relax and let your mind soften, because this isn't something you learn, it's something you remember. This is something buried beneath the noise of your name, your story, and your to-do list. This lesson was never taught in school, but it echoes through the best minds of our time, of those who woke up, truly woke up. And if you can stay with me for just a few moments, you will understand why too yourself. Let me take you into a story. There was once a young man. Let's call him Kai. Kai lived in a city that was always screaming with noise. Phones ringing, traffic screaming, goals stacking, and self-worth shrinking. One day, Kai lost his job, and he lost his girlfriend, and finally, he lost his breath. But not because he was dying, not because his mind was drowning in questions. Why me? Why now? What did I do wrong? He spiraled until he stumbled into a bookshop because of the rain. There, a small old man pointed to a book and said, "Don't read it. Listen to it." The book said, "You are not the storm. You are the sky that watches it." Kai paused. Then he read it again. Then again. And for the first time, he zoomed out. He saw his pain, but not as his identity. And then he saw his story, but not as a truth. He became the watcher. And in that moment, he stopped suffering. He was free. This is what Marcus Aurelius practiced when Rome was burning, what Buddha realized under the Bodhi tree, what Anthony de Mello whispered in the silent retreats. This is what Jocko Willing embodies when he says good, what Kevin Hart means when he shrugs his shoulders when he gets a rejection. This is what Joe Rogan means when he says, "Imagine you're the hero of your story." And what Chris Williamson means when he says, "Imagine your life was a movie and there's an audience watching your movie. What would the audience be screaming at you to do?" You see, all of them are pointing to the same thing, the sacred art of detachment. Not indifference, not withdrawal, but the art of stepping outside of your mind and seeing that you are not the thoughts you think. You are the one who notices them. Here is the thing. You say "I" every day. I feel sad, I feel anxious, I feel not enough. But so does everyone else. So who is this I exactly? Is it your name, your story, your emotions? Or is it just a word that points to awareness? Since everybody shares this concept of I just stands for identity. And this is why when I say you are not your problems, I mean you don't have to be your problems, because you don't have to identify with your problems. You're conditioned to be identifying with everything that happens to you because you think it's happening to you, and then you struggle to solve these problems for yourself because you are too close to the problem. This is why when Rogan says, "Imagine you're the hero of your movie."
What would the hero of your life's movie do right now? Do that!
He's not asking you to think like the hero. He's asking you to imagine a hero. Imagine yourself from a third-person perspective, because it's much easier to see what's going on when you're looking from the outside in. You're always too close to the problem. When Chris says, imagine you're the audience screaming at the TV saying like, "It's so obvious what you should do. Why can you not see the solution to this?" It's because you're too close to the problem. You have identified with it. You have said time and time again, "Oh, I just can't do this because it's too hard. Oh, this happened to me and this is why I'm like this." You have to realize that you are not your problems. In fact, you're not even your personality. You are the awareness that has been watching the whole time. The awareness that has been waiting for you to come home, to bite the apple. You see, I believe that you are the universe playing hide and seek with itself. You're in this dream, and the dream feels real when you're in a dream. But once you realize it's a dream, it becomes a lucid dream. You become an active participant, an active author of the story. Like, listen to how many different ways you can say this. You're the author of your story, you're the conductor of your symphony, you're the hero in your movie, you are the audience screaming at yourself. These are all semantics. These are all just different ways of saying it. They're all pointing to the same thing. You cannot figure out your problems when you identify with them. When Steve Jobs lost his job at Apple, that could have been the end of it. If he identified with that as his biggest life's failure, that would have been it. He's like, well, it's the biggest life's failure, so I can't go on to do anything bigger than that. But he didn't. He went off and started a new company and eventually reunited with Apple because he detached from the situation. When I was in Vietnam, I got deported from Vietnam and I got put into a cell or this fucking prison for 8 days. The first thing I did was accept the situation because I realized that the cell is locked. There's nothing I can do. There's some things that are outside of my control right now. I have focused on what's inside of my control. Well, my mood is inside my control. My emotions are inside of my control if I become consciously aware of them. And so I just sat down, I started meditating, I started doing Wim Hof breathing to the point where the other cellmates were doing it with me. And if I sat and thought for too long, and I felt like I had enough thinking, I started doing push-ups. Very, very basic human needs. Like, that's all you really need to do. Just detach from your problems, accept the situation, and only focus on the things that are inside of your control. Think about it, when I was in there, I remember thinking, I want to look back on this as the guy who was smiling the whole time he was in there. I went to my first open mic, my first comedy show after this, because when I was in there, I was that guy that was smiling all the time. I was trying to make everyone laugh to the point where, and then so many things happened. I came up with this whole story I had that I could tell on my first open mic. You have to realize that this is all just a story, and you're wrapped in a narrative. You're too close. You can't think objectively. You think you are all these things. You've been conditioned to think that you have certain problems. You know, things happen. Of course things happen. You react to them. You're a human being. But a conscious human being feels the emotion and adapts to the situation. When Bruce Lee in that famous scene is getting locked, all the doors are shutting down and he's trying to escape, and then finally he can't escape. The best thing he could do with his nunchucks is sit down in a lotus position and meditate. There was nothing else to do. Was he gonna go through a metal door? He couldn't go through a metal door. So he just sat down and relaxed his mind so he could best attack when he got the chance. When things were inside of his control to do something about it, that's when he moved on. You could probably find this in so many other movies. But this is just the patterns that I've noticed now. When Jocko Willink was in training as a Navy SEAL, everybody was so focused looking through the scopes of the situation, 16 people looking all at the same thing. And Jocko realized, I don't have to pay attention to this. Let me take a step back. He literally took a step back, 12 inches, and looked and figured out what to do and made a call as the youngest guy on the team, to the point where he got praised by the captain. This is what the best leaders do. You have to take a step back. You're wrapped inside of a story. So here's what you can do. How can you use this in your everyday life? Ask yourself out loud. I told you, asking yourself out loud makes you're like a language model in a way. And speaking things out loud will shine the light on the first association you have with the question. So ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Get an answer to that. It could be a few things. And then follow that up with, what is the one thing, the number one thing I would do if I was the observer, not the victim? Jordan Peterson says it even better. He says, what is one thing that I should do, that I would do, that I could do? That gets you right to the heart of the first step on your journey to recreating your story. Because it's that simple. You have to figure out the story. You cannot go to a shop if you don't have a story in your head of, oh, I want to get this. Like, that's a story. You know, there's a need inside of you. There's something you need to get from the shop. What is it that you need in your life? And then you have to get to the shop. And you will not get to the shop if you stop halfway and come back home every time. You have to go all the way in, and you can only get to the shop if you take all the steps necessary to get there. That's all I have for you today. This was your bite of the apple. And I want to bring you on a journey. There is a lot of things that I want to do, and I will share my goals with you, and I will show you me doing them. This is one of them. Doing videos every day, trying to come up with a concept, write a better script. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm not trying to add too many habits, but I'm gonna have bigger goals, and I want to bring you all with me to show you how I'm doing it. I want to document my journey. So if you want to be a part of it, subscribe, follow, do all those things. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.